Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Bears in the Know. My name is Brent Dunn, and I serve as Executive Director of the Missouri State Foundation. And for those that have not been to Bears in the Know, we started this series of programs 4 or 5 years ago. And they were a luncheon series every other month, and it's really to talk about things that are unique to Missouri State or things that people may not know about Missouri State. Seems like we always learn something, even those that have worked here for a long time. There's always something that we can pick up from this. Of course, COVID hit, and then we took this virtual, which has been interesting because as we have taken these programs virtually, we have added lots more people that are interested in that particular topic of the month. And it's not just people, staff, it's not just students, it's alumni, not only in the state of Missouri, all over the country. In fact, we've had people from different countries that have joined in this series. These are recorded and we place them on our website, and people have gone back and reviewed the program as well. And it's going to be interactive. As we did these in person, you could ask questions, but by now everybody is a Zoom expert. And so down at the bottom is the chat button, and you can ask your question to the speaker, and I'll moderate that as we go through the program. We'll end though at 1 o'clock or whatever time zone you are in. We have about an hour for this program. But again, thank you for joining us, and we thank Arvest Bank for sponsoring this series this year. And today's topic is a very timely one. That's an important topic to our campus, but it's also a national topic that schools around the country are grappling with, especially as the pandemic started around the world. But as we normally do before every speaker, we get an update from our university president. So we welcome Cliff Smart to give us news about things that are going on at Missouri State right now. Cliff?
Thanks, Brent. The biggest thing that we're doing right now is winding up the semester. We finish up classes tomorrow. Final exams start on Wednesday. And then next week on Thursday afternoon and Friday, we will have 5 in-person graduations to celebrate our graduates this year. We have 3,011 students who will be graduating from the university next week. I think that's an all-time record number of students for spring graduation, and we are very excited about that. On the COVID front, really good news. The semester continues to go very well. Last week, we had 4 new cases of COVID only. We continue to vaccinate folks at Majors Health and Wellness Center. We have now done 10,241 doses of vaccine have been given. And of course, we also vaccinated 6,313 people at our 2-day mass vaccination event in April. And so that totals 16,554 doses of vaccine given on campus. And we're very proud of that. If you have not received a vaccine yet, you can go online to the Majors Health and Wellness Center and sign up and do either a single dose J&J vaccine or 2 doses of the Pfizer vaccine. And we're a part of the effort to get Greene County and Springfield vaccinated so we can get back to normal. And we are planning to be back to normal in the fall. Convocation, Bear Village, Bear Fest Village before football games. Concerts will begin in late August with the Alan Jackson concert. And so we are moving to a very much a normal semester in the fall. If you have football tickets, You'll be able to buy them at your old location. You won't be spaced out as we were this year. If you don't have football tickets, you should probably think about getting some, because we're going to have a very good team again in the fall. And then finally, the other big thing happening now, there's also a week and a half left of the legislative session up in Jefferson City. And so, hot off the press this morning, the conferees from Senate and House have met, and they have approved an increase for higher ed of 3.7%, which is a significant increase. That's $3.5 million for Missouri State University of new money. Very pleased with that. That was the ask that we made. They also funded the MoExcels projects, which include $1.8 million of one-time funding for a cybersecurity program that will go into JVIC downtown. And there are two other capital asks that are still under consideration. And the capital bill will likely be voted on next week. We've got a $4 million ask in for expansion of new facilities at DAR, as well as a $1 million ask for a renovation of a building to house an advanced welding facility in West Plains. And so, very optimistic that those will make it across the finish line, but we're waiting to see the final result of that. Again, expect that next week. Very good week up in Jeff City. Our Senator Lincoln Hough has led the charge for new funding for Missouri State University and higher ed. So if you see Lincoln, who by the way is a graduate of the university, tell him how much you appreciate his work for us and for education this year. With that, I will turn it over to one of my favorite people, Dr. Dee Cisco, who's our Vice President of Student Affairs, to tee up the program today.
Great, thank you, Cliff. As he said, I'm Dee Cisco. I'm the Vice President for Student Affairs here, and I'm also a proud alum of Missouri State. I'm happy to be able to join you today and ultimately to introduce our speaker. But first, let me provide a brief update from the Division of Student Affairs. As you may know, our areas support student success, foster student engagement, inspire our commitment to public affairs, and instill pride and tradition. We're comprised of 25 departments organized in 8 clusters of enrollment management, the Dean of Students units, multicultural services, residence life housing and dining, the Plaster Student Union, Campus Recreation, Majors Health and Wellness Center, and the University Bookstore. So all that to say, we offer a broad and diverse group of programs and services. And as Cliff indicated, the students are so excited to see another semester draw to the end, and they're encouraged to hear that we're planning for a return to normal activities and events in the fall. Next week, we will host 5 commencement ceremonies to congratulate over 3,000 new graduates. And this summer, we'll welcome about 3,000 new first-year students through SOAR, our orientation program. Right now, we're holding end-of-the-year ceremonies and actively planning for fall opening activities. I'm proud to say that Majors Health and Wellness Center has administered over 10,000 COVID vaccines, as Cliff mentioned, and we continue to add to that number every day. Our team in Campus Recreation held intramural sports activities this year, and we are the only school in Missouri that can say that. Construction for our new Multicultural Student Center, our new Office of Student Engagement are both underway in the Plaster Student Union, and they should be completed for the fall. And of course, our annual tent sale is offering great bargains this week outside the bookstore. I could go on and on about programs and meaningful activities and services that are provided to students to support their persistence and ultimate graduation. But for the sake of time, I won't do that. I will say that the Counseling Center is one of the departments in the Division of Student Affairs, and they provide preventative and therapeutic mental health services for the university student community. Rhonda Leslie is the director of the Counseling Center. She has over 25 years experience as a licensed professional counselor, focusing her career mainly in higher education and private practice. She's been here at MSU for the past 6 years, and she specializes in cognitive behavioral therapy, solution-focused brief therapy, and she uses biofeedback, mindfulness, meditation, and resiliency in the treatment of anxiety, depression, and other student mental health concerns. She also provides EMDR therapy for survivors of trauma. Rhonda is a certified Gottman therapist. She's a registered yoga teacher with the National Yoga Alliance and an active member and former chair of the Suicide Prevention Coalition of the Ozarks. I'm thrilled to have Rhonda on the Student Affairs team, coordinating mental health resources and support. Now, she's prepared some enlightening information that she's going to share in her presentation on college student mental health. So Rhonda, I'll turn it over to you now.
Thank you, Dr. Cisco. It's great to be here and share this wonderful information with everybody about mental health trends, challenges, and advancements. And let's see if I can get my screen share going here. Can everybody see that? I'm going to guess that's a yes.
Yes.
Well, thank you. It is exciting to share this information. I feel like it's kind of a broad brushstroke today. These are really, these are what I see as the trends and challenges and advancements based on my own experience, and it's just the wealth of information available on mental health trends right now. I know that we cannot discuss every single trend or challenge or advancement, but hopefully this will give you an idea of what's going on, kind of a tickler of information. And I have some resources at the end where you can find out more information as well. I did want to say about myself too, that I feel like I've had a really broad experience from when I started as an undergraduate student, because I was a work study student in the counseling center. And I also became a peer helper. We had a wonderful program and I was very active in that. And I also partook of mental health services. I participated in counseling as an undergraduate student. So I had that angle as well, that actual experience. In graduate school, I was a graduate assistant for the counseling department and then for the counseling center too. So I can really relate to our GAs here in the office that work for us and provide great services for us. And then my career has mostly been focused in university counseling, but I've also worked in community mental health and private practice. So I feel like I've had a pretty broad experience in this field, but it's been a joy to serve students in the counseling centers at universities. So with that, let me jump into my presentation today while we're all here to look at the trends and challenges and the advancements. So I don't think this will surprise anyone. This has been certainly in the news a lot. If you've been on a college campus, you know that our services are in high demand. By the way, you're going to see this little TCA code at the end. This is just kind of my way of saying, is this a trend? Is this a challenge, or is it an advancement, or is it all three? And I certainly see this as all three. Later in the presentation, if I have time, I'm going to share some information that's very specific to Missouri State's increase in demands, which has been incredible, really, in the last 6 years that I've been here. So why do we have this demand for counseling services all of a sudden in the last, 5 years, perhaps even decade? What's creating that? Well, if you look, we have more informed consumers coming to campus. Our students have been almost groomed to utilize the available services. And so we have these consumers of college students that know more and more that counseling services exist and they're going to advocate for themselves and get the help that they need. Certainly, there's still room to grow in this area, but we have definitely seen an increase in students utilizing the services because they know we're here and they know the value of getting the mental health support. We've been promoting our services greatly, especially since I've been here. That's been a focus of mine. The more that we can promote our services across all areas of campus, the more that students can get the help that they need. Related to that, really the sooner a person gets help for a mental health issue, the faster they get better. So if we can increase promotion and we can increase awareness, we'll have students that are able to focus better in their classes. They're able to enjoy all of the wonderful co-curricular things they can get involved with, and they'll just be functioning better. They'll be more well. And I capitalize this one because it's so exciting that stigma is truly down. This is something we've been fighting for probably almost forever, since the beginning of the field. This idea that there's something wrong with you, there's a mark of shame if you seek services for mental health. That's definitely decreasing on a national basis. And we're very excited about that. Again, it just kind of lowers that threshold. It allows more students to get the help that they need so they function better and lead more fulfilling lives. Another trend that we see, an advancement, is electronic records. When I first came here 6 years ago, we would give students a big packet of information. They had to handwrite it out, and then that was delivered to the therapist, and they had to go page by page looking through that. Now we have Titanium Schedule, which is one of many platforms that counseling centers can use. It's just one that we really like, that we landed on, that's been highly effective and efficient for us. The students find this very user-friendly. They're very familiar with technology. So we feel like it's a huge advancement in the work that we do every day. It makes our work much more efficient as well. Some of the other programs include Point and Click, Theranest, and Simple Practice, just to name a few. There are many other electronic records programs, but definitely an improvement in my point of view. Who hasn't heard that anxiety and depression has been increasing? Years ago, we would see students primarily in the counseling center for depression. And several years ago, we saw anxiety take the lead, and it's been really in the lead ever since. I have a wonderful video that I'm going to attempt to show you that addresses this issue. Let's see if I can switch here really quick. I'm going to stop my video for just a moment.
Then for those just joining, we're just trying to get a video to start up. But again, as you have questions, you can go down to the Q&A and write your questions, and we'll try to get those. Rhonda will get those answered. Rhonda,
Okay.
any
I think I'm back on now.
Okay.
Sorry about that pause. Okay, I'm hoping this is going to work. I know videos can be a little temperamental, so let's see if we can.
Mental health care. Schools have long provided.
Are you able to see this?
We just see your PowerPoint, but not the video. We did hear audio of the video, though.
Okay, thank you. Let's see if I can.
And we
Okay.
see the screen. There we go.
Now you can see it. Thank you. Sorry about that. Here we go.
Provided counseling, but as students head back to campus, colleges and universities across the country are facing a growing demand for mental health care. Schools have long provided counseling, but increasingly colleges are facing new dilemmas about how to best treat a student, especially one at risk. Hari Srinivasan is in our New York studios with the story.
In fact, rates of anxiety and depression among college students in the U.S. have soared in the past decade. There's more awareness of problems, risks, and diagnoses. And combined with the stresses of college life, schools are trying to figure out the right course of treatment, counseling, and intervention. The Chronicle of Higher Education examined this in a new series about what it calls an epidemic of anguish. Jennifer Ruark is the editor of the series, which has been in the works for 10 months. And Mickey Sharma joins us. He's the director of the Association for the University and College Counseling Center Directors. He's the director of the Office of Student Life Counseling at Ohio State. So Jennifer, I want to start with you. Your reporter spent a long time on this series. What did you all find?
Well, we found that colleges are seeing an increase in the number of students who report to counseling centers with anxiety disorders, with clinical depression, and they're also seeing more incidents of serious situations that need immediate intervention.
So Mickey Sharma, I'm watching and I'm thinking about this and saying, listen, haven't the stresses of moving away from home, perhaps the big breakup with the girlfriend or boyfriend or partner, bombing a test when you get there, hasn't that been around for decades, as long as college has been around? What's so different about the student population now?
I think there's many things that have caused some of these changes that Jennifer alluded to. I think the stigma regarding mental health has decreased locally here at Ohio State and nationally across the country. Students are more apt to reach out and meet with a counselor when they're struggling with things. We have students in this generation that are working and growing up in a very fast-paced society. There's additional stressors, more things that they're carrying on their shoulders, and there's an increase in the anxiety that we see in students. Traditionally, historically, depression was always the #1 thing that students brought to university counseling centers. About 4 years ago, that flipped, and now anxiety is the #1 presenting problem that students bring to the counseling center at Ohio State, as well as nationally, and depression is #2, and that divide between anxiety and depression, it grows each year.
Jennifer, are there schools dealing with this change differently? I mean,
Okay, I'm going to try to get back to my PowerPoint now. This is always a little bit of a challenge. Okay, are we there?
You've still got the video on there. So you probably need to take the video off, but you can go ahead and go ahead there. But the video shows up on the screen right now.
Okay, all right. Let's see if I can fix that. Okay, are we back to my PowerPoint now?
There you go. Yep, there you go. You got it.
Wonderful, thank you. And as Mickey Sharma, discussed the increase in anxiety and depression, and we're starting to see that widen, where anxiety seems to be increasing. And actually, the CCMH report from last year showed that depression is actually down just a little bit recently. So, and of course, that's a challenge for us in the counseling center dealing with this increase in anxiety, to be able to manage it better for students, find creative ways of helping students cope with their anxiety as we see these increases. So increased lifetime threat to self is another trend and challenge for us. We're seeing suicide increasing slightly over the years, as well as self-harm and risky behaviors. Definitely challenges on many levels. We know that suicide is a primary reason that students in college die. And we certainly have seen self-harm increasing. How to manage that, how to manage it not just in the counseling center, but university-wide, which we'll be talking about in a moment. Just looking at this more from a holistic approach, that it's not just the counseling center's duty. Certainly, we are here in the moment when students are in crisis, feeling suicidal, having suicidal thoughts. But how do we prevent that? How do we look at it more from a public health perspective and be able to hopefully prevent it from ever getting to the point where students are feeling suicidal or self-harming? It's really fascinating when you look at trauma awareness and treatment. We are focusing more and more on trauma in the counseling center. There is a study that was done that shows, depending upon the study you look at, 66 to 85% of college students have reported a lifetime traumatic event. 60% of adults have reported experiencing some kind of abuse or family circumstance during childhood, that can be related to trauma. So just how do we help college students with trauma? We're using techniques like EMDR. There are other therapy modes, somatic experiencing, certain kinds of cognitive behavior therapy and exposure therapy. In our center, we are, several of us are trained in eye movement desensitization reprocessing, which is a form of therapy specifically for helping people cope with and heal from trauma. But this is something that's very new. Trauma is not new, but the focus on healing trauma and helping students cope with trauma is newer in college mental health. We've certainly been helping students over the years, but we haven't necessarily been naming it. And we've certainly provided a lot of referrals in the past for students who were traumatized, and now we're able to offer more actual therapy in office and help the students. SART teams, Title IX and BSA therapists are some of the trends we're seeing, which are all extremely helpful in helping students cope. VSA therapist may be a new term for us. It's a victim services and advocacy therapist. And we have one of those here in our office that specifically works with students that have been traumatized by domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking. Any one of these slides, we could probably spend an hour talking about. So I feel like I'm really giving this just the tip of the iceberg on each one of these slides. So I apologize for that, but excuse me, I'm happy to continue this conversation at any point. I know we're on a short time here. So moving on, just increasing mental health awareness and advocacy. Again, this is one of my favorite areas. We're seeing many parts of the college campus come together around mental health. We're seeing communities come together in order to increase just treatment availability and awareness. It's sort of become everybody's business. I think something Dr. Smart said originally today kind of alluded to this, that mental health is in the spotlight right now. Excuse me. And everybody deals with mental health in one way or another. So how do we integrate that across campus so that the care is increased, again, from that holistic approach. And looking at that, we offer things like gatekeeper trainings. On campus here, we have the Respond program, which is a day-long treatment on understanding the signs of a mental health problem and how to help and how to listen and how to refer students. It's similar to mental health first aid, if you've heard of that. We're offering You Can Help Us student programs, Seize the Awkward campaigns, and JED Campus, which I'll talk about later. We are now a JED Campus, which is a national organization that helps college campuses really improve the mental health climate. So I'm very proud that we are a JED Campus. And again, I'll share a little bit more of that soon. NAMI, Active Minds, To Write Love on Her Arms, excuse me, are all organizations that we're seeing a greater presence on campus. Students can join these mental health organizations and help promote being mentally well, prevention, et cetera. We've offered the Addiction Summit here, the Impact Summit, Fresh Check Day. And again, these are all opportunities that anybody on campus can attend to improve their knowledge about mental health and how to help. And certainly we've seen the increase of care teams on campus, behavioral intervention teams, which we have here. Although their tasks are varied, a great deal of their energy is focused on the mental well-being of students and how to really support students so that they continue functioning well and they remain in college and are successful in achieving their goals and their dreams. I think we are short on time, and so I'm going to skip this video because it's been a little challenging. But the video was of Allison Malman from, she's the director of Active Minds, just really kind of talking about this public health approach, how the entire campus experience is better if we're all working together, collaborating, so that the mental health of students is a priority. And we all see our role, and we're all playing an active role in creating just better mental health for everyone. Another exciting area is being able to serve our underrepresented and marginalized students. Truly a national effort and truly a challenge and an advancement. When I was going through my own program years ago, we had a multicultural counseling class, and that was pretty much it. There wasn't any additional training that we received in our jobs. We did a great disservice, I think, to our people of color and international students, disabled students, LGBTQ+. So we've come a long way in just really educating our staff, certainly, in keeping with what's going on across the campus, focusing on inclusivity, excellence in inclusivity and diversity. Here in the counseling center, just within the last year, we've had 3 separate trainings focusing on professionals working with students from different backgrounds and how to really make a difference and how to look at our own biases and our own blinders that we have on, and hopefully how to treat our students that are underrepresented and marginalized more effectively and more empathically. So we have a lot of work to do on that, but I'm really proud of my staff for taking this on and making it a priority. We are seeing more and more students coming to the counseling centers already taking psychotropic medication. This has certainly been a huge change since I joined the field back in the 80s. Last I saw, it was somewhere around 30% of students are coming to counseling already taking some form of psychotropic medication. Information from the Healthy Mind Study, National College Health Association, and ACCCD all support that in their annual reports. We're also seeing with this, we're seeing a great opportunity for increased collaboration with psychiatry and family medicine. We are providing more reports and more continuity of care these days in the field of university counseling. We're providing those reports to psychiatrists, and we work closely with Majors Health and Wellness with our great relationship that we have with the physicians there, a very collaborative relationship. So I see that as a real boost, a real positive that will hopefully only continue through the years. We're seeing students coming to campus that already have experienced therapy. So these are informed consumers. And again, the studies for the HMS, NCHA, and AUCCC studies all support that. Increased acuity. So when students see us, they are really experiencing intense symptoms. We're providing very well-trained providers to help deal with these issues. Let's see, students come to us and expect that immediate availability of relief from their symptoms. They're pretty desperate often when they come to us. We're providing sessions in the middle of the day, sometimes walk-in sessions, sometimes phone consultations, et cetera, to help students cope with their intense symptoms. And certainly the ongoing therapy that we provide every week or every other week helps students deal with this increase in intensity of symptoms. We're seeing more stepped care and solution-focused brief therapy models. We have espoused the solution-focused brief therapy model here in the Counseling Center. And basically that's just a change from the way that counselors used to operate. We used to allow students to attend as many therapy sessions as they wanted, once or twice a week, as long as they were a student here. And it's a very old model of therapy. And with the increased demands, we had to do something different. And I say we, that's certainly us here at Missouri State, but just nationally, so many counseling centers had to change their model to something where we could better utilize our staff, our limited staff. So students, here they can have up to 8 sessions in a semester. Some counseling centers across the nation allow a little more, some a little less. And then this idea of stepped care, where it's not one size fits all, but a student presents to the counseling center, and then we look at what their need really is. Some students might need just a couple of sessions. Some students might need 4 or 5. Some students might need longer term or more intensive care. So there is this national movement to kind of meet the student where they are and then provide them that specific kind of care that they need. Right now here, ours is more one size fits all. Everybody gets up to 8 sessions if they want that, with a little bit of variation there. So my staff and I have a meeting planned in the very near future to try to look at our model and see if the stepped care is that model is going to be more effective for us, and just how that might look here at our center. These models are more efficient, certainly effective. They're backed by good research. They're affordable. If you're doing solution-focused brief therapy, you certainly don't need as many therapists as if you are offering endless amounts of sessions to students. Same thing with the stepped care model. How are we doing on time?
We're doing fine. You've got 10, 15 minutes or so. And then again, if people have questions, one question, and don't want to interrupt your presentation, but you might tell everybody where you were located on campus and where you are now, and how does that play in the program itself?
Okay, that's a great question. Very pertinent, and I don't mind the interruption. So we had been located in Carrington Hall for a long time. I don't know how long, probably decades. We were on the third floor, kind of tucked away next to the Career Center. And, there may have been some benefits to that as far as, being in a tucked away place and the privacy that afforded. But when the opportunity to move to the third floor of Majors Health and Wellness Center presented itself several years ago, which is hard to believe. It's been, I think, almost 3 years. We were all very excited about that. Being located in a wellness center, just in general, the idea of being part of wellness, mental health, being connected to wellness, I think is a really positive thing. We can easily refer students downstairs to the doctors if need be, and we certainly do that. And if I needed to consult one of the physicians downstairs, it's just a matter of a phone call, walking downstairs and talking to the doctor about the student I'm concerned about, and vice versa. They certainly can and do the same thing with us. So it's just a very a positive change. I think students even being seen coming into the wellness center, there's a little bit less stigma around physical health than there is mental health. So nobody really knows why the student is coming into the center unless they share that information. So I just think it's a very positive move for us, and was delighted that we were able to be part of Majors Health. Another change we're seeing is the use of social media, of all the available apps there are for assisting students with mental health concerns. And there are a certain number of students who will not come into the counseling center. They're just not going to see a counselor, to make an appointment for whatever reason, stigma, inconvenience, whatever, but they will get on their phone and look at apps and find something that could help decrease their anxiety or help them cope better with depression or relationship issues. There's so many great apps right now available for just managing stress and for time management. So we've definitely seen the growth of these wonderful supports for students. Telemental health counseling. Just a little over a year ago, our center, nobody in the center had provided telemental health services to students. In fact, it was something I think that we were a little resistant to doing, if I may say that. Something that was on the horizon, but we weren't quite ready to go down that path. And with COVID, it certainly pushed us into that path overnight. And it's been a great thing for us. We can meet students where they're at. It's a little bit more convenient for some students. And again, it's very user-friendly, very intuitive for students. They're so used to being on videos with their friends and family. So I think that was definitely a positive advancement. And that's why I mentioned here the pandemic, efficiency, effective. And students they really do want these kinds of online supports and telemental health availability. So we're responding to what students are expecting. So as you look at the trends with COVID-19, speaking of, we talked about telemental health, but local referrals in the counseling field, generally speaking, you will be counseling a student in the state you're licensed in. So if that student is off in Idaho and you're here in Missouri, you can't counsel that student generally across state lines due to counseling laws. And so we've been, with the pandemic and everybody getting sent home, we've been better at providing those local referrals to students. It was a growth area for us, and I think we've really responded well to that. And certainly every counseling center across the nation with the pandemic responded similarly. Some of the mental health concerns, we know there's been increased isolation due to the pandemic, anxiety. There's a report from Active Minds that showed that 91% of students experience heightened anxiety or stress in the pandemic. And of course, that's focusing on students, but I would guess that that's also very similar in just the population in general. Students reported that they had financial setbacks as well, or other major stressors, disappointment, sadness. 80% of students experienced loneliness during the pandemic. So we've had to respond to just so many problems that were created for our students due to the pandemic. So do we have some time to look at our own counseling center? If not, we can move to questions.
Yeah, no, you can touch on that.
Okay.
Your question did come in, and then we'll let you get into the counseling center. But and maybe you're covering this, but a question came in: what about non-students, that of faculty and staff? Are you involved with them and treatment with them?
Thank you for that question. I always love to share information, even though we don't provide services directly to faculty and staff anymore. There was a time that we did, but that's also a trend that we didn't talk about. But the trend is counseling centers moving away from providing those services, and instead EAP services are being provided through human resources, and we have a couple of options through our own human resource department on campus. And so if we have staff or faculty needing those supports for themselves, all they need to do is go to the human resources website and enter EAP program. And through the EAP, faculty and staff have up to 6 sessions that they can utilize as part of their benefits here. And then beyond that, they can certainly use insurance to deal with their ongoing need. Majors Health and Wellness also provides services. There are counselors and psychiatrists within Majors Health and Wellness Center. And so they can just call the main number and request an appointment there. We are always happy to consult and help people get connected. There are also, community providers, private practice for those who may not want to use the EAP programs or Majors Health. I've certainly helped a few faculty and staff get connected with providers here in Springfield, just because I work within those networks. So happy to help anybody that needs that kind of assistance.
And a question, and you may be getting into this in the presentation, but how do percentages of mental health problems at Missouri State compare to our peer institutions?
Yeah, I would say off the top of my head, because I don't have that as part of my presentation today, relatively similar. I would definitely say one stat that I do have that's exciting. It's not really a comparison, but it is from our own Healthy Mind study. We conducted a Healthy Mind survey of a sample of our students about a year ago as part of the JED program. And so if you look at perceived stigma, we have some room to grow, but we're about at the 50% mark. So for every student that perceives a negative stigma with mental health, we have another student that does not see that as a barrier or as a stigma. Again, I think that's still room to grow. I want that to drop. I'd love to see that become 0, like there'd be no stigma here. But I do think that in keeping with the national trends, we're seeing that decrease over the years. Thinking again of our Healthy Mind study, this is not necessarily a comparison, but it is some local statistics. Looking at anxiety symptoms, about 36% of our students meet the criteria for an anxiety disorder. About 39% of our students report depressive symptoms. About 18%, and again, this is all Healthy Minds data specific to Missouri State, but about 18% of our students reported some kind of suicidal ideation within the last year. And I think that can, that definitely is concerning. We want to see that decrease over time. And lifetime mental health disorder diagnoses, we're seeing about 41% of our students that fit the criteria for a mental health diagnosis.
So a question came in, do you know how much demand has increased for mental health services on campus in the last few years? And I
Yes,
think
that is part of my upcoming
Yeah.
slides, if I can just go ahead.
Yep.
So this was just a very quick look at, we have a mission statement, which we just updated recently, a few months ago, supporting student well-being, development, and success. These can all be found on our website. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these, but feel free to go to the Counseling Center website if you're interested in looking more at our mission statement. This is our wonderful staff. So proud of all the wonderful clinicians we have here, highly trained, highly skilled. We have graduate assistants that are counseling students and work study students at our front desk, and just a really talented administrative assistant helping kind of navigate everything along with us. So looking at some of our trends and stats, I know we're really running out of time, so I'm going to click on these quickly. But at the bottom of the screen, you can see the trend in demand. So 10 years ago, we had 364 students in a year. And lately we've been seeing about 1,400. Until the pandemic hit, I would have said that we'd be greater than 1,400 students, probably closer to 15 or 1,600 students, but the numbers did fall a little bit with the pandemic, and we're starting to see those increase again. But from the time I got here, so I got here between 2015, I guess the fall of 2015, it almost doubled, not quite, the demand, certainly, maybe by a third increase. And then if you look at the numbers at the top of the screen, as far as like primary areas of treatment, these are really in keeping with national data as well. Anxiety being the #1 reason students come in, depression. We see depression in relationships kind of flip from year to year. Sometimes depression is in the #2 spot, relationships sometimes in the #3 spot too.
So an attendee said that, anxiety, obviously part of being away from home, growing up, facing career decisions. But to what extent have we medicalized what are normal anxieties of growing up?
That is an interesting question. Medicalized our normal anxieties growing up. I'm not sure we have time to fully get into that. I don't know. I would say in some ways we've normalized the anxiety that comes from living in a very fast-paced life and our modern society, just the demands that we face. I don't know. There's a part of me that feels like that feels a little like stigmatizing with anxiety. I don't know. Again, I'm just kind of thinking out loud about that. But I think that when students come in to see somebody that's trained in helping assess their anxiety levels and help them get the support they need, that it doesn't have to be medicalizing anxiety. It could be, just helping a person deal with heightened symptoms that are negatively impacting their functioning. So I guess I look at it from maybe a little bit different lens. As far as the JED Campus program, it's a pretty big movement right now on campus. We joined up with the JED Foundation. Thank you very much to the support of Dr. Cisco and the former dean, Dr. Thomas Lane. We got together and discussed the opportunity for us to join up with JED. There's a great deal of information, jedcampus.org, if you want more information about this, but you'll be seeing more and more information about JED across campus, because we are in a phase with joining up with the JED where we're now really focusing on areas of priority for mental health around campus. We have a JED campus team on campus that really brings together a bunch of different staff and administrators and faculty to focus in on creating a healthier climate around mental health for our campus, which is just so exciting. There are about 300 JED campus schools across the university, across the nation, and that's increasing every year. There are so many programs available online to help us get to where we need to be. There's a thorough assessment, which we've already been through the assessment phase, and now we're into more of the implementation phase. We're going to see a lot more with gatekeeper training, which is one of our priority areas, helping our marginalized students and reaching students outside the counseling center. So stay tuned for lots more information. This is a 4-year process. So there's an initial assessment. There is the implementation phase where the recommendations that were given to us from the JED campus organization based on our assessments and based on a campus visit. We then spend a couple of years implementing the recommendations. And then in the 4th year, we're reevaluating. So we'll take the Healthy Mind study again and look at the changes in the data, and also just as a group, the changes that we can see that are palpable and visible on our campus through the work that we're doing. So it's a very exciting time to be working with JED and seeing the positive changes. I had a bunch more information about JED. I think I'll just kind of run through that information now because I know we only have a couple minutes left.
Yeah, one last question. In what connect do you have with students that want a career in counseling? Is there a connect between the academic side and your area?
Thanks for that question. We have a great connection, certainly through the graduate assistants that we employ. We hire 4 graduate assistants that work for us. We train them. They come to us pretty green in the summer. Many of them have only had 1 course in counseling or maybe no courses in counseling. They're just beginning their program, and they're thoroughly trained, supported. And then by early to mid fall, they're counseling students and they're receiving lots of supervision. They're growing in their counseling leadership, their outreach. So it's a wonderful opportunity to work directly with those students. We do have some opportunities for undergraduate students too, as far as like work study students, where they get a sense of the front office, and they're helping with scheduling and some of the behind the scenes work that we do. And we also provide so many outreach opportunities where we're coming to classes and lecturing on various topics around mental health and sharing our resources with organizations and with academic programs across campus.
Rhonda, thank you. We're out of time. I know this is a very important topic that you could spend days on, and it's obviously a timely topic and one that doesn't just affect our campus, but affects campuses all over the country. But Rhonda, thank you for your service to our students.
You're welcome.
And appreciate your presentation. Dr. Cisco, thank you. And again, thank you for joining us on this Bears in the Know series. Thank you to Arvest Bank for sponsoring that. We will be back in July 7th, and we're talking about the public affairs mission and how it connects to students, faculty, and how the public affairs mission connects to the community. So again, thank you for being with us today, and thanks to Arvest, and we will see you soon. Have a good afternoon, and go Bears.